Alright, this is a section I'm going to call Cigar Musings. I'm smoking, I'm sitting here. I've got nowhere to go right now, or at least no place to go immediately. And as you can see, I just finished my video for comparison between a Liga Privada number 9 Churchill and a Liga Privada number 9 Mini. Cigarillo. Cigarillo. Cigarillo? I don't know. And if you want to know what I think, go see that review. Let's see, what is the subject matter of the day? A lot of Democrat politicians are fond of saying incredibly stupid and dangerous things like, no right is absolute. There are limits to every right. And of course, they always want to bring up that old chestnut about freedom of speech doesn't mean that you can yell fire in a crowded movie theater. As far as that goes, we'll deal with that later. But that's not only a stupid thing to say, because it shows that the person saying it obviously has no idea what a right is, or the history of the concept of individual rights, the concept of liberty in American history, but also is very dangerous because what they're suggesting, what they're talking about, is something that strikes at the very heart of what it means to be American. If the government, if you accept that idea that no right is unlimited, that there are limits to every right, and you're going to accept the idea that government can set what those limits are, government can place limits on right, on how they can be expressed and how they can be exercised. Well, then you're not talking about rights. If the government can limit it, that means the government can even take it away. And if the government can take it away, that means the government is the one that gave it to you. That is the absolute opposite of what the founders and the framers of this country had in mind. Their idea was that rights were either inherent to human nature, that they were inherent to human nature, and that if you were of a religious view, that meant that they came to you from God. But even if you did not believe in a God, you could still recognize the fact that human nature, being what it is, entails certain rights. Which is why they often use the phrase nature or nature's God. So the origin of our rights is not with government. The origin of our rights is with ourselves. It's with our human nature. It's who and what we are. And since government cannot give you those rights, and since government did not give you those rights came from somewhere else. Again, God, nature, human nature, whatever you want to believe. And since the government did not give you the rights, the government cannot take them away from you. The government cannot regulate them. All of our rights are indeed absolute. There are no limits to them. And if there are any kind of limits to rights, those would be natural limits, and they are outside of the government's ability to legislate. Let's take a look at the very first, I believe it was one of the earliest pieces of legislation that the very first Congress considered, and that is the Bill of Rights. The First Amendment, the first portion of the Bill of Rights, and the very first words in the Bill of Rights are, Congress shall make no law. Congress, because in the Constitution, only Congress is given the authority to make laws. The president has no authority to make laws. The Supreme Court has no authority to make laws. Only Congress can make laws. Also, no government agency has the authority to make laws. Any government agency like the ATF, the DEA, the SEC, any of the rules they come up with are not laws because Congress didn't vote on them. That is the executive branch making up its own laws and enforcing them as laws, which the executive branch, the president, does not have authority to do constitutionally. Congress, the only entity in the Constitution given the authority to make laws, shall make no law. That's an absolute statement. Congress shall make no law. No law at all. None. There's no qualifier in there. It's Congress shall make no law. Concerning what? Well, the rest of the amendment, which I can get into at another time. Let's take a look at the Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Shall not. Again, that's absolute language. Shall not. That means the government has no authority to infringe upon the right to keep and bear arms. No authority whatsoever. That means that any laws that they make that bear on the right to keep and bear arms are null and void, because the Second Amendment says those rights shall not be infringed. So I guess everything then, of course, revolves on the meaning of the word infringed. You have people out there who will say that as long as you're still allowed to own muzzle-loading single-shot muskets, the right has not been infringed upon, because that's the only thing that existed at the. It doesn't say that it says the right. It doesn't say the right to keep and bear muskets. It doesn't say the right to keep and bear black powder firearms. It doesn't say the right to keep and bear firearms. It says the right to keep and bear arms. Arms meaning a general term for anything that can be used as a weapon. So anything that can be used as a weapon, Congress does not have the authority to limit what you possess or what you carry. That's what keep and bear means. Keep means to possess, means to have in your possession, and bear means to carry. There's just no getting around that. That's the English language. That's the meaning of those words at those times, and it's still the meaning of those words today. If there are any limits to these rights, then those limits are going to be natural limits. But one thing that the Second Amendment makes clear is that the government has no authority to decide what those limits should be or will be or could be. And of course, whenever you bring this up, you say that the right to keep and bear arms is unlimited. People get hysterical and they start screaming about nuclear weapons. You think you have a right to own a nuclear weapon? Frankly, yes. If that frightens you, well, then you're just not thinking things through. First of all, who manufactures nuclear weapons? As far as I know, it's the government itself. The Defense Department is the one that manufactures the nuclear warheads that we put in our missiles and our subs and our bombers and that we use. I guess the Department of Defense probably subcontracts a lot of it out. I guess, to like Raytheon or any other kind of military contractor, manufacturer. But basically, the government is the one that manufactures these things. So since the government manufactures them, the government can control who gets them, because they can sell or not sell to whomever they choose. And as far as I know, the United States government has never sold a single nuclear warhead. So I don't know what the big deal is. Also, generally, building such things is extremely expensive. So, about the only person who could afford either to make their own nuclear weapon or purchase one from a willing government would have to be extremely rich. Would have to be on the order of Bill Gates or what's that other, I don't know, maybe Trump could. I don't know. He just made a big score. But anyway, only the rich could afford them. And of course, once again, the government. I'm guessing you might be able to buy one from a rogue government over in the former Soviet Union, but you may just be buying junk. Who knows? And what are we talking about here? Blofeld? Are we talking about Dr. Evil? Somebody, buying a couple of nuclear weapons and then holding some nation at hostage? Either you pay me all this money or, I incinerate New York or D.C. or L.A. or some such city. Come on, seriously. And then if you did want to build one of your own, so you were rich enough you could afford it. It seems that the people who are involved in designing and building and manufacturing these things are, the top 0.1% of the top 0.1% of the top 1% of people in the world. So where are you going to be able to get those kind of people to work for you? The design of our nuclear weapons is one of the most closely guarded secrets we have. And I'm guessing it's pretty much the same everywhere else. So again, you're not going to be able to build. And then, how are you going to get fissionable material? I think the United States owns something like 90% of the land in the state of Nevada. Why? Because that's where the uranium is. And because it's just such an empty area, it's great for all kinds of, tests and training and that kind of thing. But, it primarily is because that's where you find uranium. And so, not only is, and at best, I would think that you might be able to get uranium, or you're not going to get any of the processed products of it. So getting some kind of fissionable material and being able to handle it, being able to further process it into nuclear weapons grade material, my goodness. So nuclear weapons is always brought up as, this supposedly gotcha thing, but it's really kind of, think about it for a few minutes and you realize that it's completely ridiculous. Private people are not going to be owning nuclear weapons. They're not going to be building nuclear weapons. So we're not talking about that. So that's off the table. All right, well, some people will say, well, what about, say, biological weapons? There's all kinds of things, weaponized anthrax and all the different diseases. Well, we already have that too. Don't mean to be crude, but, certain things that come out of human beings' bodies are about the most biologically dangerous items in existence, and everybody's got it. That used to be the way the biological warfare was conducted. They would, when they laid siege to a city, they would catapult into the city dead animals, dead bodies, loads of human waste. Why? Because that will spread disease. That will kill everybody. So biological warfare has been going on for a long time, and it can still go on today. You can still do it today. There's other sources of of dangerous biological uh, weaponizable material. So biological weapon, chemical warfare, same thing. Mix bleach and ammonia together, and you will create chlorine gas, which was what was used in World War One. I worked at a restaurant as a teenager, and was one of the new hires. Was told to go mop the floors, and he put bleach, ammonia bleach, and what was the other one I just mentioned? My goodness. Well, I lost my train of thought there. But anyway, he put together two of the cleaning chemicals that you're not supposed to put together, produced chlorine gas, and cleaned out the entire restaurant. As soon as anybody got a whiff of that, they went running. The the odor is unbearable, and if you stay around and breathe that stuff, you're going to die. So chemical warfare agents still, you know, household chemicals, you can make those kind of things. It's not, you know, and if you've ever watched Breaking Bad, you know that you can make ricin from castor oil beans. So let's not play around with these ridiculous ideas. And some people, oh, well, then everybody can own a machine gun. Absolutely, yeah. Why? What's wrong with that? Why not? There are lots of people who own machine guns even now. They're licensed, and they have to pay a $200 tax stamp, and they have to pay an awful lot for the very few machine guns that are actually in existence, all because manufacturing new machine guns to be sold to the public is now banned. That, too, is an infringement on the right to keep and bear arms. My cigar has gone out. So, what it boils down to is this. Was it? No, I'm not going to conclude just yet. What else? Also, that Biden once said, he said, you can't own a flamethrower. Yes, you can. Elon Musk did a short run of home flamethrowers. Not really a flamethrower. It was more or less just a glorified blowtorch. A flamethrower is actually shooting a flammable liquid that is ignited. All Elon's did was, then of course there's also the Dragon's Breath shotgun rounds. That's pretty much a flamethrower. It throws a shower of sparks, and that basically comes from burning magnesium quite a distance. If you need to start a fire, that'll do it. What else did he say? Oh, you couldn't own cannon. Yes, you could. Private citizens owned cannons. Private citizens owned machine guns. Private citizens owned warships prior to the 1934 National Firearms Act, which put it didn't actually restrict the manufacture or the possession of them, but it placed a super burden tax on it. At a time when, say, a Thompson, I think, was selling for, what was it, $45, I think, in 1920s currency, which was a lot, believe me. But the tax put on them was $200, so more than 4 times the cost of the gun. When Teddy Roosevelt went to Cuba with his Rough Riders, his 2 sisters bought 2 Colt machine guns, belt-fed machine guns, as a gift, and gave them to his company, gave them to the Rough Riders. It ended up that they didn't use them, I think probably because they didn't really know how to employ them. But private citizens buying machine guns. There are, to this day, private citizens who own cannon, who own mortars, who own howitzers, who own all of these type of things. So the National Firearms Act has to go. It's completely unconstitutional. The Gun Control Act of 1968, that has to go. That is completely unconstitutional. And let's just remember something. Any tax or fee placed upon the exercise of a right is an infringement of that right. It is a violation of that right. So, all the taxes that go onto firearms, ammunition, that all should be eliminated. Now, there is a tax on, I believe, firearms, ammunition, and any supporting items. That tax is earmarked for conservation efforts, whereas that is a violation of the Constitution. However, that one, because of the fact that the taxes are earmarked for a specific purpose that shooters desire, a place to shoot. I don't mind that so much, and it's fairly low. It doesn't really add a whole lot to the cost of any of the items, but I wouldn't mind getting rid of that as well, if we could find an alternative method of funding those kind of projects. It would be interesting. But without a doubt, the ban on the manufacture of new machine guns for sale to the public. You're not going to find any kind of automatic weapon for less than about $5,000, no matter how cheap it is, no matter how abundant it is, because of the fact that there are no more being built. You can. There's just, the prices are outlandish because there's a limited supply. Full auto weapons might sell for less than $1,000 without that process in the way, without that infringement. The same thing for short barrel rifles, short barrel shotguns, suppressors, all of those things. Suppressors, that should be, the gun control people are always screaming about how the United States needs to adopt the kind of laws that Europe has. Well, as I understand it, in most European countries, you can buy suppressors over the counter. And in fact, to go to a gun range and fire a firearm without a suppressor is basically considered to be rude. You don't do that. Suppressors. You ought to be able to go to Western Auto and buy one of those. Western Auto doesn't exist anymore, does it? AutoZone, is that what they renamed themselves? Whatever. But, they should be, easily, of course, you manufacture your own. Doesn't matter. Now they want to go after what they call ghost guns, home manufactured firearms. I saw something where they want to go after, where somebody's come up with a new name for zombie gun. I'm not sure what qualifies as a zombie gun, but they want to get rid of those. There's just mark those politicians that say things like this. They're also doing it with the freedom of speech and the freedom of the press. They're trying to limit those things. They come up with hate speech laws. If you said something and your motivation behind saying it was hate, somehow that's worse. Or that converts a right into a crime, which, the exercise of a right can never be a crime. And now they're trying to adopt laws about what you can videotape and what you can't when you're in public. I guess all I can really say about it is that the Democrat Party is evil. The elected politicians have an agenda, and that is to get rid of the Constitution and establish a socialist tyranny, essentially, dictatorship over the people of the United States, taking away all of their rights. They want to institute a social credit system like exists in China. Really, we're taking our cues from communist China. And they've got to be stopped. The Democrat politicians are evil because they have this evil plan. The Democrat supporters, people who are giving them money and following their lead, doing things in support of the agenda, they're evil. And yeah, the Democrat voters, even the ones who are ignorant of these things, how can you be ignorant of that? And you're supporting these. You have swallowed the blue pill, and you're asleep, and you're living in a dream world. No politician cares about you. They don't care about whether you live or die. They don't care whether you starve or feast. They don't care. What they want is your submission to their power, and what they want is power. And don't get me started on their pedophilia, Luciferian philosophy, child sacrifice. That's who's really running this country, running the world. Luciferian pedophiles. Well, I've been ranting for almost a half hour now, and look at that. I think I've smoked about 2 inches of my cigar. See you next time.